previously on episode 6.
So my personal purpose, I think, and I've always kind of, not always, but as I evolve, I felt like I'm here to help people. And, a lot of people will say that I want to help people. Well, what does that mean? It's like, how do you help people? Well, I feel like I have a gift or a purpose to be able to kind of pull the best out of people and get them back to. It was some of the best advice. He goes, make yourself happy. The show here is going to go on. We're going to miss you tremendously, but it's going to go on. And it's more important for you in your life to be happy. If you're not happy what you're doing.
Welcome to episode 7. A heart of gratitude is enough. This episode, our guest is Mrs. Lisa Hope. We taped our episode July 2021. I hope you enjoy this timeless conversation.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Boosie Teaches podcast. As we say here at Boosie Teaches, in a galaxy of learners, Boosie Teaches lights the way. As our host Tanya Busico says to her students, come on in, relax, we'll be here a while. Let's get started.
Alrighty, so for this episode of the Boosie Teaches podcast, we have none other than Miss Lisa Hope. Woo! Yes. So how we get started is I like to give people their flowers and tell them how they have impacted me. So this will be no different. So let me tell you about when I think I remember meeting Miss Lisa. So we went to the same church, New Hope Baptist Church in Virginia Beach. And I feel like I probably met Miss Lisa when we first got there in 96, but I was 9 years old. But how I really got to know Miss Lisa was she was my Sunday school teacher. Yes, so Miss Lisa was my middle school Sunday school teacher. As a kid, I was like really into church, into the learning part. So I really loved Sunday school. I really loved absorbing. And Miss Lisa really provided such a safe haven for us to ask those questions that we wondered, away from just the spiritual, supernatural element, but really thinking about what it meant to walk with God practically. And so I always appreciated that and just loved our class. Like we just had so much fun. But then when I got to high school, like when we were aging out, she and her family moved to, was it Las Vegas?
Fallon, Nevada. Fallon, very
yes.
Small town. Yep.
Yes. And I will never forget, and I'm going to try to say this without like getting too emotional because I want to be able to talk.
It was hard.
Yes. In our last Sunday school class, Miss Lisa read her journal to us. And that was the first time that an adult was so transparent with us. And it wasn't like a crossing boundaries or anything like that, but it just was so powerful. I remember that time being so pivotal just because I knew that my walk was different. And I knew that Sunday school would be different. And it wasn't, of course it was emotional, but it was also like a passing of the torch. When you talk about rites of passage and you talk about those things, that's what that moment was. It was very much an affirmation moment to also show like an adult could, even as your teacher, could be human. And that was the first time that we saw that. And it was very, very emotional because what happened was after Miss Lisa left, I did not like the high school class. I just felt like, seriously, that's why that's why I ended up teaching the adult class because I was already in the adult class. So after Miss Lisa left, probably about a year, 2004, I realized that I felt like I had learned all I didn't feel like I was, not that I couldn't, because this is gonna sound so arrogant, but I realized too, like the Sunday school cycle, and we had already cycled through. And so I ended up going to the adult class at 16 with my mom, and everybody else is my age's mom. Probably why I'm so close to them, more so than some people my own age, was because I just knew that I needed like a grown theology, if you will. And I attribute that to Miss Lisa's class. Being able to ask those very, like I said, those tough questions, or those questions where a lot of Black church tradition, especially when you're kids, it's like, don't ask too many questions, and, you know, shut up and be quiet. And even though I will say that wasn't the totality of my experience, it's not a lot of Sunday school teachers that will feed your curiosity in the Black tradition at that time. And so I just was so appreciative. Like, and I say that because when Miss Lisa came back, she actually came back to see me teaching Sunday school to the adult class. And I remember that moment and just her being so proud, in shock too. Like, not that I needed to be, but you would expect me to be with my peers. But after her class, I just felt like it was okay to be different and to be set apart. Like, you need that as a young person. You need someone outside of your family to say, it's cool, like, it's all right. If you're interested in learning more, and just like really supportive. Like, when I gave my initial sermon, she was one of the people that I had speak. And
Flattered.
And it was, I think you did scripture, and it was Acts, because it's the scripture that says your sons and daughters will dream dreams. And so putting together that program, if you haven't gotten it already with how I have orchestrated this podcast, but I'm one of those people that believe in paying homage to people that are important to you, to always thank those who came before you, but to also be intentional to include them in your major moments. And so doing this podcast is like, I knew I waited some time because I knew it would be emotional. And so I was like, let me get my mind together. But yeah, Miss Lisa has definitely been, when I think about even my ministerial journey, even my journey just into womanhood and what it meant to be in relationship, like in healthy relationships. We weren't talking about that in like other places, and what it meant to like be in partnership and communication, and like how all those things translate, whether it's friends, romantic, family, and just learning how to be like a healthy, well-adjusted adult. And so I always just appreciated all of that. And I could say more, but I'm really not trying to cry anymore. So we can go ahead and get started. And our first question is, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm humbled, and the comments you just made really touched my heart. I know when God allowed me, I look at everything as a gift and a offering. So when God allowed me to be you guys' teacher, I just thought about my own walk and said, I'd still want to give them what you would have me to give them, Lord. But I also had to factor in what's going to help them out in life. It's okay if they memorize a scripture. We have weekly Bible verses, right?
We did.
The scripture of the week. All that's important, but how is it really going to mean in life when they're making decisions or coming across problems and people that they don't like? I knew y'all had energy, and I'm like, I got to give them a platform to get that energy out. So at the end of class, y'all just get 5 minutes to talk about whatever you want. We just gonna sit and talk.
Right.
One time, just as an exercise, I had you all write the president. I think this was 2000. W was in office, but just to go through the drill of getting some of your questions and emotions out, and it also blessed me too. And reading my journal, I have not read that journal to anyone since, nor had I read it to anyone prior.
Wow.
It just God put it on my heart to read certain parts of my journal and some of those defining moments that kind of made me the lady you guys saw before you back then. And now, fast forward, 16, 17 years, still God is working on me. Long way to say I'm good, I'm humbled, got my circadian rhythm together here.
Yes.
Sleep and all that. So the energy and seeing someone that I've admired for 2/3 of her life,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
it's a full circle, and I'm so hyped and amped about this. So thank you.
Thank you. And I know it's
All right, I'm gonna try to stick. I know we gotta.
no, that's
gotta
okay. That's okay. It goes where it goes. So let's talk about you as a student. So what
Yes.
kind of student were you in secondary school, college, or both?
I would say, well, I was older, not, I don't know who knows, but I was older, went to college right out of high school, like most people do, but ended up falling in love, getting married, dropping out of school, becoming a wife and a mother.
Mhm.
Fast forward about 10 years, went back, got an
Mm.
associate, bachelor's, and a master's. So I wasn't that traditional student right out of high school where the success came. I think that's later, but
Mhm.
for the most part, I would say an average student. When you're single, no kids, it's a level of time you can commit to it, and then when you're married with a child, you have other priorities. So the heavy studying and things like that would come at night, especially being married to a Navy guy that was out to sea a lot. So sometimes I was played that single mom role. And my daughter, Janelle, she needed her time. I couldn't push her away. She needed her time. So I gave her time every night until around 9:30 bedtime. And then that was my time to study. I was fortunate because at the jobs that I worked, I had supervisors that respect me as a student and would allow me to study at work. It was
Wow.
really awesome. So I'm grateful for that. And school for me, again, as an adult, an older adult, was honestly, it was a means to an end.
Mm.
But somewhere along the way, after I got my bachelor's, I'm like, I gotta enjoy the journey. I gotta enjoy this journey and
Mm.
really learn from what I'm involved in, be it pursuing that master's degree. I made it work. Was I a straight A student? By no means, but had a pretty good GPA,
Mhm.
enough to graduate and not have to repeat any classes. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I appreciate you talking about being a non-traditional student, because there are some people, some guests on this podcast who have been non-traditional students, and people listening, because we always assume that when we say undergrad students that they are 18, no children. And we know that there are people who, have families, have children, and
Yep.
or take care of people as well. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I also appreciate you acknowledging that school is a means to an end, because I think, especially with teaching, many students say that, but they don't necessarily, especially as 18-year-olds, they don't necessarily get that you still have to go through the process, even though it's a means to an end. I do want to ask as a follow-up question, what shifted when you said that you wanted to begin to enjoy your journey in your master's program? What would you say maybe shifted in you to say, like, I want to enjoy that?
Yeah, I felt a sense of relief after I got my bachelor's. That was back in 2000. Yeah. Oh, 21 years ago. And I felt such a huge shift, a huge accomplishment, sense of accomplishment
Mhm.
then, and relief. Like, whew, that's over. And then I'm like, but yeah, and you're almost 42, 40 also. So I felt a sense of, okay, you just rushed away a few years of your life.
Mm,
What do you
good.
remember from those last few years? And I'm
That's
like,
good.
oops, oops.
Mhm.
So a year later, I started on my MBA, but I'm like, I'm gonna really enjoy this journey. I'm gonna really dig in, but the group projects that I worked on and things like that, tried to get to know some of the other students on a personal level, not to be BFFs or anything, but
Yeah.
just try to really get in there and enrich my life as I went through all of those business MBA courses. So
Right.
yeah, it was basically I had blinked and 3 years passed,
Right.
and I didn't get anything out of it
Right.
in a
Right.
sense other than a piece of paper.
Right.
So that's kind of how that went down. Yeah.
That makes sense. And I think, I mean, that happens so much with students. I think about all the things that I've done. And like sometimes when I don't pay attention, I will look up and just, I have all these papers on the wall and that's great. But I think to your point, especially when we live in a society that seems to reward people for just like racking up accolades, but you're
Yeah.
not getting those experiences. And so I appreciate that. So let's talk a little bit about success. What did success mean to you? Let's go back to maybe high school. And then how did your concept of success evolve through the years?
Right. Okay. And is it success as a student or just success in general? How do you want me to?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I would say first as a student and then in general.
Okay, right. Success as a student, you're raised to think or to believe you got to get straight A's. You got to be at the top of the class. And it's just that everybody's not designed for the top, and it has no impact on your intellect, but everybody is just not in everybody to make it that way.
Right.
So early on, I kind of realized I wasn't that top student, and I wasn't going to be the top student, but I knew I was pretty smart. Okay. I just knew that even as a young person. And of course, success from an academic standpoint is good grades, or you could look at graduating. On the personal level, success. For me, I've always been a dancer. I still dance in my 50s. I'm still a dancer, and that is my passion.
Yes.
One of my passions, but a pretty strong one. But I was on the drill team dancing group in high school. And when I made the drill team, that was success for me.
Yes.
When I had a date for the prom, that was success for me.
Those personal moments matter.
Absolutely, absolutely. When I graduated from high school, that was success.
Yeah.
Just evolving decades. Success has changed. My opinion of success has evolved so many times, but at one point 20 plus years ago, success was having that great job, making a lot of money.
Right.
Okay. But then you get to that level, and then it's like, now what? How much do you want to keep climbing the corporate ladder? And then what are you giving up to get that? Another success, marriage. Mary and Wilfred, Mr. Hope, who's a great partner for me. And I tell my daughter Janelle, and I tell other young women and men, whoever will listen to me, it's good to have somebody who's good for you, not good to you. Yeah, you don't want someone that's bad to you, but people put a lot of emphasis on being good to me, but is he or she good for you? And with Mr. Hope, with my husband, my success came through him being here, us having a marriage and a relationship that I didn't have to deal with a lot of, we're not perfect. We're not, that's a whole nother podcast. But I didn't have to deal with a lot of drama, a lot of mess. So because I didn't have to deal with that, I was able to thrive. You with me? I was able to thrive and grow
Yeah.
make relationships with some other women, be friends. I could be me. I could be the true Lisa that
Yeah.
I am. And that I keep growing with that. But that's success too, just being in an environment where you can thrive.
Yeah.
Okay. And I give the same to him as well. I'm not going to give you a hard time. He's got a master's also. I'm not going to give you a hard time if you can't go to the movies. We can't go to the movies like we usually do. Or if we can't go to somebody cookout that invited her, or we can't have a cookout because
Right.
I got to study or you got to. We respect each other's interest, activities. That's success as well. Okay. Um, Another success, in my opinion, is being really, really good stewards of everything God bless you with.
Yeah.
And it's not just money, it's it's
Right.
people's podcast, okay?
Right.
It's
Right.
somebody's child in Sunday school.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a sorority sister, it's a friend.
Right.
So that's being a good steward. And yeah, it's money and material things as well. So success has just really evolved for me over the years. And now is, did I bless somebody today in a big way, small way?
Right.
Then yeah, that was a good day, as Ice Cube said.
Yes.
Best check, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that because you're right. The major moments in our lives, what's major shifts. And I think that's another thing that I always appreciated about you was just like the social development is just as important. Yeah, it's great to make straight A's, but if you have no friends, like what happens with that? Like if you're, and so I appreciate that, but you're right. And I also appreciate that you said like you separated smart from straight A's because there are so many factors and reasons why people can make straight A's depending on if they have tutors, if they have more access to things. And it's also about desire. Do you want to, for students, do you want to give up your whole life for straight A's or do you want to have balance with some B's in your life? And I appreciate, I really appreciate that. And also the partnership piece, like paying attention to people who respect your interests is so important as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because partnership can make or break your life in
Absolutely.
ways that people don't realize. And so I appreciate that. So let's talk a little bit about, because I don't even know all the details. So I know that you write grants. Like I know that you're a grant writer. And I think that you're a federal contractor, but can you share like a little bit about that journey for us?
Absolutely. I won't go back to the beginning, but I'll go back about 16, 17 years when Mr. Hope and I and Janelle moved to Fallon, Nevada, because he got transferred in the Navy to that location. It was Naval Air Station, Fallon, Nevada. And it's a very small rural town in northern Nevada. Okay, you had rural farmers, you had the Navy base, okay, and you had reservation, the Paiute Shoshone. It's Paiute, Paiute hyphen Shoshone, and they are one of the federally recognized tribes in the U.S. And basically, that just means they can self-govern. Under self-governance, they pretty much set their own laws with the exception of like murder and kidnapping. There were some different conditions there, but it was pretty much a self-sustaining community. They had a hospital, they had early childhood education center, they had a public works, they had housing, like actual houses on the reservation where they would get grants to build more houses. And it was a really fascinating environment for me and new environment. But anyway, got a job working for them as a grant writer. didn't have grant writing experience, but because of my bachelor's degree, they felt like I was trainable. So got an opportunity to work with their tribal administrator, literal chief, but got an opportunity to understand all the programs and how federal funding works with regards to tribes. There are set asides, but those tribes still have to compete for those funds. And at the time I was working for them, it was a little over 600. That number has probably changed by now, but 600 different federally recognized tribes. For some of those programs, we had to compete for federal funds. So shadowed a few of their program directors and got a good sense of what they needed and started writing grants for them. And I did that for 2 years and was able to create around 18 jobs and around 2 to 3 million in grant funds for them. It added up. It wasn't one big mega grant, but yeah. So, I was really grateful for that, but that was kind of a life defining moment for me because I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed the sense of creating jobs for folks. Okay. So we moved back to Virginia, and I still had the grant writing fever. I'm like, I got to find a grant writing job. And that opportunity didn't happen for me. But because I had federal proposal writing experience, ended up with a federal contractor, a defense contractor, and kind of translated those skills into writing more technical proposals for government to secure government contracts. And since then, that's what I do now. I do it for a living. I'm a proposal manager now. I manage people that do it, but I do it too. So it's a really interesting industry. I have done some grant writing as a volunteer pro bono over the years, but not as much as I want to, but I haven't made time to do it as much as I want to. And that's a personal thing, but the industry itself is very interesting, and it is enough. It's enough out there for everyone. I do want to say that. I don't want to misinform people.
So I just want to just ask one question. So you're saying for set asides, which is money set aside from the government. So wait, so it's minority and women owned together, like that category is together, or
in some cases, and there are some where they aren't together.
So let's talk a little bit about purpose or genius. So we're shifting a little bit. So what would you say is your genius or your purpose?
Okay, and I call it a superpower.
Okay.
And now I'm not trying to be arrogant, but I do know my spiritual gift and earthly gift. I do know is wisdom.
Okay.
And again, not high level intellect, but wisdom. Yeah, I know that's what it is. And and I may be answering prematurely, but
that's okay.
It didn't come to me till about, I was in my 40s, I know. So over 10 years ago. And the way it really came through marriage. It came from not always having to clap back, right? That's what they say now. You don't always have to clap back.
Right.
Certain things can be worked out within your own soul. Okay. If somebody makes it, and this is at work too, someone, it's not mine, but I stole it. Someone said, let the best idea win. And that's always in my head. Even if you disagree, it still may be the best idea. And
that's good.
Yeah, just because you get mad, don't nobody care. Least mad, so what? So those kind of things I reason in my head. Just
Right.
because you mad, it don't mean nothing. So
Right.
what are you trying to accomplish here? What's the end game? Whether it's marriage, work, whatever you're
Right.
doing, but what's the end game? Okay.
Right.
Whether it's driving, everybody trying to get to the same place. Okay.
Mhm.
So that's what you got to focus on. And that's kind of how I realized it, again, not just from the spiritual aspect, but my gift of wisdom. I see
Mhm.
things differently than a lot of people.
Mhm.
At least what you mean, see things differently. Everybody might see, look at, I don't know. I'll just use an example. Everybody may look at why somebody look at the fact that somebody's like out of control and losing their mind. And I might look at, oh, what is it doing to that person in the corner? Are they okay? Because they're gonna be all right. They're gonna have their fit and they're gonna work that out. But this one over here, he got his head down, or she got her head down, or she on her phone. What those kind of that's it's kind of a weird example, but that's the kind of perspective I have on things. Tanya, everybody slows down for an accident. If it's clear, if I'm clear, even though y'all slowing down, I'm speeding because the cops are preoccupied.
Right.
Y'all looking, I can really zoom again. So that, again, that's how I feel like I had acquired this
That's
level
good.
of wisdom over the years. So,
Good.
yeah, yeah. And it's so liberating, honey. It's
Yes.
so, I'm like, yeah. When I found my voice. I found my voice around 39, almost 20 years ago. Okay, late
Wow.
30s. I found my voice. And then over the years, I cultivated
That's
and learned. Yeah, do I slip up every now and then, but not much.
yeah.
I'm getting it. I'm getting it. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, I call it my superpower though. I do.
That's good. And I think that that's important to, I used to hear this saying too, was like, don't stay at the party too long. And
Mm.
just this idea that, it's great to have your fun and all of that, but
Yeah.
you have to know when to go, because sometimes it's not for you to clean it up.
There it is.
If you stay long enough, you're going to inevitably, you're going to have to move some chairs. You're going to have
Come
to throw
on.
some trash away and like all those things. And so I
See,
think,
I like
yeah,
that. Mhm.
I don't even know where I heard that from. Like that sounds like somebody grandma would say.
I know.
Right.
Because you will get stuck
right.
picking up trash and things you
Right.
didn't plan on. And yeah.
Right. All because you wanted to, all because the good time you just stayed in it too long.
Mhm.
And so I appreciate that. And also, even you sharing that it took you to your late 30s to find your voice. That's one thing I feel like is great to have, like a you in people's lives, so that, like, for me, I found my voice early. Like I found
Yeah.
my voice.
Yeah.
It just like,
Thank
because
God.
I just knew, even with my own journey, when my parents like, why you keep going to school? Why you don't have no full-time job? I just knew that I knew my path, and I
I got
knew
it.
that it would work out. And it wasn't like it wasn't like, oh, it wasn't whimsical. It
Yeah.
was very clear. And so, but I still think it takes people like a Sunday, like I said, when I think about the range of people, you need your Sunday school teachers. Like you need people, like you in their lives. And so, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, so you said that it came at like 39, you realized, but can you talk a little bit about how you knew, like, how were you sure that, okay, wisdom, like this is it, this is absolutely my superpower? Because sometimes people waver, like when you're thinking about your purpose, and so you dip your toe here, you dip your toe there, but not really sure. Was there like an event that was like an aha moment, or was it just like a pattern that you noticed?
Yeah, I'm glad you framed it that way. I would say a pattern because I spent a good portion of my life through trial and error, okay, with some exceptions. But I went through a series of engaging in jobs and things, and it didn't always work out. Okay, so trial and error. Well, let me try this.
That's good.
Oops, it didn't work. I don't like that. Cross that one off. Try this job. I'm really not a numbers person. No, I'm not gonna do that anymore.
That's good.
On my bucket list, on my bucket list was to get a Zumba instructor license. Didn't want to teach now. I just wanted to get the license.
Okay.
Prove it to myself.
Ooh,
did
cool.
It. Some great people talked me into teaching. Did that for a few years. Check out. I don't want to teach anymore. I love Zumba still. I always will. I don't want to teach it. See, it's the difference between being a student and a teacher. You know that.
True.
So I went through a series of events in life through trial and error. And that's kind of how I kind of stumbled, but I was stumbling up. I wasn't stumbling back. I kept growing and evolving to a new level.
Yes.
Up. And around that 39, 40, yeah, I got my bachelor's degree. I realized the degree, people have different opinions about it, but it gives you choices. If nothing else, it gives you choices.
That's the one, yeah.
And that kind of, along the degree and stumbling up to different levels, you combine those together, it all kind of happened around those late 30s. And I'm like, okay, I think I got this thing figured out now, this life thing and the Lisa thing figured out. I think I know what I want to do and where I want to go, but still open. I'm open. I'll try it. I'm still open to other opportunities as they come along. So I would say it's a combination of both the degree and again stumbling up to where like, okay, yeah. So I'll encourage anybody, try something new, and you don't have to live there. If it don't work out,
that's good.
Weigh the risk. There's always risk. And a little at a time. It may not be a new job. It just may be a project. It may be a volunteering to do something. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. And can you speak as a follow-up question?
Yeah.
How did it feel for you? How did life feel when you came into yourself? How did that feel?
I felt happier, and happy, it's okay. It's fleeting though. You know, happy comes and happy will come and go. So that's a really soft description, but I felt liberated. I felt freer. Yeah. I did. It just gave me a sense of security that I never felt before.
Yeah.
I was, the dark one growing up, one of the dark ones. Oh, she's a cute little black girl, you know, he had light skin, dark skin. I was just always I viewed myself as always kind of mediocre. So, yeah. But when I got to that point, I felt free. I felt confident, very confident. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for your transparency. I think that, I mean, that's so real. Like once you feel, because to me, especially like when we use church terms like bound and free, but I think like once you are liberated, it's hard to go back the opposite direction.
Right. It can't happen. Yeah.
Because you're out. Your wings have already spread. You cannot unspread them now.
Mhm.
So I appreciate you sharing, because it takes time. You have to experience life. And I think for students, especially if you're on this trajectory, you miss experience. I mean, you've mentioned that before, but it's like experience in life will give you wisdom that even though we say people have old souls, but I come to recognize, unless it's some sort of supernatural gift, often the old soul comes from trauma and or like being around older people. Like for me, I mean, I was like, my grandma was living with us.
Oh yeah, I remember her.
Yeah. And so this idea that, of course, so you're talking and you pick up their language. But I think to have true wisdom, like you said, you experience so much. But let's talk a little bit about your mentors. So who are the people who have imparted wisdom in you? How did you find them? Did they choose you? Did you choose them? And then what advice have they shared with you through the years?
Yep, and you brought up one earlier, Miss Edna Fordham.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And Tanya, my mentors, I chose them. They didn't choose me per se. They didn't. But I chose them, and it speaks to also my life of trial and error as well. But I would find somebody or some kind of way, encounter someone that I felt like I could really learn a lot from in whatever setting or environment I was. And Miss Edna at New Hope Baptist Church is one of, I think, well, really the only mentor at church at New Hope that I chose. And it was just because she was a wealth of knowledge, but she also had a lot of historical knowledge and understanding of the world of New Hope. I thought she was pretty well-rounded, or is pretty well-rounded. I like her spirit. I like her energy. And I don't mean rah-rah, that type of energy, but her internal energy. I liked it. Years ago, she had told me that I was wise beyond my years. And I'll never forget that. But while I was working a lot in the Sunday school, she would privately tell me certain things, and I appreciate that. She never publicly humiliated me, and she encouraged me all the time. She'd call me Sunday evenings and just talk. And I appreciate that. Well, my mentors, I got a list of them, even in the work setting. But the people that I chose as mentors, they are all risk takers. They're very high energy. You can call them type A's. I'm not a type A. I'm like a B plus. But the people that I've learned the most from have been those passionate, energetic, I call them high-strung types.
That's so interesting though, Miss Edna. I mean, I love Miss. Yeah, Miss Edna, I'm gonna get her on I just have to figure out how to get to her. It's actually, it's not hard. I have mics, I have camera, I can go to her. I have to make the time. That's what I really have to do. But I appreciate you bringing her up, because for those who don't know, Miss Edna is like, so we had a lot of senior women at our church, like the mothers of the church and all that. Miss Edna is like spicy, and not in a negative way. She's very much tell you how it is, whether you like it or not. The thing that I appreciate about Miss Edna was, I remember one Sunday school when I was teaching the adult class, and someone said like Lil Tanya or something, and she corrected them because she said, she is our Sunday school teacher. You need to call her Minister Busikat. She is licensed now. And I appreciated that, because I mean, Miss Edna will champion for you.
I agree.
And it wasn't that I couldn't be Tanya to that person outside of Sunday. I mean, I'm always going to be myself, but the fact that she taught me to have reverence for where I was in my position in the church, and in that capacity of teaching Sunday school, I was like, okay, Miss Edna. And at the time, I was like a little embarrassed because I was like, well, I still call people Mr. and Miss. I don't call them sister, and I'll never call them by their first name. I don't care what's going on.
Oh, right.
And so for you to say that is just not surprising, that she would be someone that has poured into you. I mean, she used to be my vacation Bible school teacher.
Okay. Yeah.
But I also appreciated how she brought in, like, she had a certain standard. She was from the old school. Exactly. And that she could get down with the young people, but she was unwavering about who she was and what she wanted to teach you. And so I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about, and you alluded to this a little bit, to say about representation in your field, how there are not a lot of people that look like you. I mean, there are very few people, and I would say it's the same in higher ed. But what would you say about representation for Black women in your field? Like, let me rephrase this. Actually, I want to rephrase the question from what I wrote. What difference would it have made for you if there had been more Black women in your field?
I think I would have thrived more earlier on, because right. You know, I didn't have that. The Black women in the industry, they're in like human resources and at high level. You know, they're in HR, they are in like facilities, security, that's clearances.
Oh, okay.
Secret clearances, they work closely with that. They're in finance. Okay, so the accounting areas and payroll and some admin areas, but there aren't many in the field was the defense contracting, but within that is business development. That's what it's called. Okay. I just work on the proposal side, but there's also a relationship side to that. Wow. Level of confidence, opportunities, everything across the board. If there were more Black women in my field, I think I've done pretty well in it without that, but it just would have given me, I think, an environment where I could have thrived and grown even more than I did. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Wow, I'm learning so much. To lighten the mood a little bit, let's talk about, you say that you love dancing, of course. Yes. But with all that you do and who you are, how do you find balance? Or what is your self-care routine? Because you know that's big now. Self-care.
Right, self-care. Yeah, like I said, with dancing, but I work out about really 5 times a week, different things, strength training and some cardio. I usually get up at 5:30 and go to one of the rec centers, in Virginia Beach, and I work out. I have to, this day and age, everything is online. I mean, it's a lot of good stuff. It's a lot of entertaining stuff. I don't criticize on the network, technology. I don't criticize it. It enhanced our lives. Did we lose something? Yeah, but hey, that's life. You gain something, you lose something, you reset, but my husband and I, we're big movie people. We love movies. So yeah, COVID, we couldn't go. We like the movie experience and we like movies. So we like both. We like the theater and popcorn and the big 100 feet screen.
Yeah.
But we also enjoy Netflix, Prime Video, and watching movies, and we talk and we analyze the movie. We disagree, because a lot of movies now, won't get too far, but a lot of movies now don't end; they just stop. So the viewer, has to kind of imagine, how did it end? What's your theory and all of that? They don't answer all the questions.
Right.
But so that's one of the ways I ground myself, honestly, with movies. People like reading books. That's fine. I'm not a big book reader. I don't have to pretend to be a book reader. If it's something I know about, I'll read it, or something. I may see a movie and then I read the book. Yeah, things like that. Of course, little family trips, some time with some girlfriends, and Zeta really, I love it so much. I love the work I do in Zeta. I didn't want to take up a lot of time talking about that, but that's a whole nother set of things I volunteered for, and titles and responsibilities that I have. And of course, my spiritual walk. But you gotta have, it's a 360 thing. One thing is not enough. Wilfred, Mr. Hope is not enough. Just Bible study is not enough. Dance is not enough. Work, I love my job. Work is not enough. Okay. But all of those together, is enough.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. Well, do you want to, because I'm writing press releases for all of the episodes, do you want to give a shout out to your chapter or your sorority?
Oh yeah, yep. Chi Omicron Zeta chapter in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Yes. Hello. Under Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated.
Yes, of course, because this podcast is not just for college students, it's for lifelong learners and everybody. So we don't know who'll be listening. So, but let's talk a little bit about looking ahead. So someone comes to you that might be an undergrad student and they're not sure about their purpose or what's next. What would be some advice that you would give them to think about how they move forward?
I would say, don't be afraid of messing up. Don't be afraid of trying new things and then marking them off, or maybe even coming back and going a little bit further with something you might have marked off earlier. You gotta grow. It's a lot of stuff you gotta grow into, but I think if people are willing to assess a certain level of risk, go ahead and take it. And don't get caught up into knowing everything. Just know enough. Podcast. I keep using this. It's easy. You asked me to do it. I said, yeah. I didn't know much about it, but I knew enough. I knew you. I knew I could mark it off in my calendar. And I know I love to talk about me. People say they like to hear myself talk. I love it. She just like to hear herself talk. Yes, I do. Okay. So that was enough. And that's how I make decisions at work every day. Yes, no, go, no, go.
Right.
Tomorrow, next week. And my supervisor, he's the same way. We just need to know enough.
Right.
Some people need to know everything.
Right.
You ain't gonna know it. And by the time who gonna be there? What? Stop. Right. Just know it. I would tell young people, whoever came to me, just know enough and work with enough. Okay. Don't be afraid of just knowing enough. People you don't have to know everything.
Right.
Okay. You're gonna find things out if you just say yes or you say no. But that would be my advice. Yes. Just know enough. Okay.
I appreciate that. In full transparency, I listened to podcasts. I didn't know what it was like to put it together. I said, you know what? I want to put a podcast together. Who should I have up there? I knew that I'll say this, I knew that my life was shifting, and I knew that I needed to get in contact with the people who helped propel my life. And so I said, what is a great way to do that? I was like, okay, I could call people. Okay, yeah, that's cool. But then I thought, I wish that other people in my life would have access to the people who have poured into me. So I said, what medium is? Podcasts.
Yeah.
And then I just like started looking online. Well, really, I just started. Like, I was just like, I found a program that I liked. One of my friends was doing podcasts. They said, oh yeah, that'll work. Looked up the instructions, started it.
Yeah.
Then started to study, but I didn't study the genre until after I started doing it. And in my study, I found all you do is like reach out to people, schedule, think about storytelling, think about what conversation you want to have. And also it was about connecting with people that I already knew. And so why would I? Yeah. And to me, it was like not that hard. Like once I figured it out, and with editing, I figured it out. If the audio quality isn't the best, that's okay.
Yeah.
And I love that. Enough. Because because that's what stops us.
Oh my God. Yes, it does. So many people.
Because I don't have all the bells and whistles. This conversation has been so great, but before we go, I have a fun section.
Oh yeah.
And so as someone who loves hip hop, our calling card is, who's your top 5 dead or alive? And so I wasn't sure if Miss Lisa listened to hip hop, but it must have been the Lord that told me about movies, because I don't even know where that came from. It was just like, let's ask her favorite movie. We know when you mention movies, I was like, oh, I didn't know that. But for you, what are your favorite movies of all time in no particular order?
Okay, and this was one of the hardest questions than anything else, because we've watched so many and there's so many I like, but I did note the top 5 for now. And if you ask me 10 years from now, that may change. Some won't, because it's already happened. But and again, no particular order, but it's the Shawshank Redemption. All right. Prince of Tides, Color Purple, love me some Miss Seeley. Yeah. Judas and the Black Messiah, relatively new. Yep. And Black Klansman. Those came just like that. Those just like that. But again, there's just hundreds, maybe thousands of movies. Yeah. And I say that over my lifetime. Yeah.
Right. And can you share a little bit about, I mean, you don't necessarily have to go into detail of each movie, but about that collection of movies. What about them makes them your favorite for today, at least?
Right. Well, I know with Shawshank, it's kind of old. It's from the 90s, but one of the famous sayings from that movie is get busy living or get busy dying. Okay. So everybody dies, but everyone doesn't live.
Right.
They may be alive, but they're not living.
Right.
So I know with Shawshank, that moved me. And with the other ones, Prince of Tides, I'd say with Prince of Tides, Judas and the Black Messiah, they had characters that were willing to do, well, they're not the same. Prince of Tides, people ended up doing the right thing, even though it hurt them. It hurt them. So a man made a choice. He made a decision to do what was right, not what he wanted to do, because out of love for other people. So I guess one could say that's the same with Judas and the Black Messiah. People willing to take risk and risk their own lives for the greater good, and died very young, early 21, but left such an impact. It changed the game. It changed the landscape. And so those are the reasons, and of course the resiliency and the stamina of Miss Celie in Color Purple is
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I would say, I mean, I love like hood classic movies. Like I love Friday. I love Friday. Like, oh my
Yep.
gosh.
Mr.
My,
Hope, one
yeah,
of his faves.
really. My favorite movie though of all time is Barry Gordy, The Last Dragon. I love it.
Oh,
Yes.
okay,
With
and
the
that's
gold.
old.
Yes. I mean, I think it was like 85 before I
It's
was in,
really old. Yeah.
but the gold glow, like who the master being in you was
Yeah.
just everything to me.
Wow.
I love this other 80s movie with Kevin Bacon and I can't even remember the woman's name, but it's called
Footloose?
She Kevin
No,
Bacon.
not
um,
Footloose.
she's having a baby
Okay.
and it's a basically, have you seen the movie?
Elizabeth Perkins, is it the wife?
Let me
Maybe.
just look that up.
It's been a while. I have seen the movie.
Yeah.
I have seen the movie, but it's been many years, many years.
And the thing that I loved, let's see, Elizabeth McGovern. So you were close.
Oh, McGovern. Okay.
Yeah, just it's something about that iconic image when she's having the baby and that one drop of blood and they're playing a woman's worth and just the balance of life and death just hangs. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I just love that. I also love Bend It Like Beckham, which is a Bollywood movie.
Soccer, weren't they?
Yeah. And yeah, just this idea that like my favorite part is when they say Jesminda, she's the main character, and then she says like, who can something, but who can bend a ball like Beckham? And so just that first generation well, she technically, I don't know if they're immigrant family. I mean, they were in London, I'm not really sure, but just that tension of like your goals as a young person and your family not meshing. I love that. And then Babs. I love Babs.
Oh,
I just
Halle Berry. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
I love the hair. I love I mean, I have my nails on, the nails, and
that's cute.
The beauty of Black African princesses, and then at the end when they fight the guy and they're like, no, he would hit him like this, and then they both hit him at the end. Because I have an appreciation, though like my experience has been very suburban growing up, I have a deep appreciation, and not in a fetishization, but a deep appreciation for those like black movies that really tell a story about Blackness in ways that feel very authentic. And so, yeah. So with that being said, I want to thank you so much for being a part of this episode. We've had a wonderful conversation. Do you have any parting words before we go?
I just, again, I'm humbled. I want to thank you for allowing me to share just a small portion of my life. So grateful that, I mean, we just got to have whole people in the world. And my thought just throughout my whole life, even as your Sunday school teacher, I'm like, I want these kids to grow up whole. Okay. Yeah, you can be smart, you can be pretty, you can be talented, you can all, but be whole. Okay. Be whole. That's balance. Okay. When people pray for medical miracle, heal my body, but my soul too. And my soul is happy. My soul is leaping right now from this exchange, this kind of energy. Again, just grateful. I love you, Tanya.
I love you too.
You are a bright and shining star. You're one of the beacons
I
of the world.
that.
Thank you for being a beacon. Thank you for this platform. Thank you for being successful. I consider Yeah, I know we got to cut it off at some time, but I remember at New Hope, and I came back, you were grown and growing, you continued to grow and pursue your education and your walk in the ministry. And anyway, you are beautiful. I love you. I will always look up to you. I learn from you, and I'm excited to know you. I'm going to keep watching you, lifting you up, holding you up, whatever you call it. I'll be in your journey wherever you need me to be. You can stand on my shoulders. I got some strong shoulders, big, strong. Wherever you need me to be, Tanya, my love.
Yeah.
I'm here. And thank you. God bless you.
I appreciate that.
Love. Yeah.
Appreciate that.